energetic state of being that we've been in. And something about it is it holds this element of mystery as well. Even when I go to try and find the words to describe it, it's somewhat difficult because it's almost as though there aren't really the physical words to describe what is going on here energetically right now. But I really want to dive into what I've been picking up on collectively, and I hope that some of you have been sharing in the same experiences so that you can feel some sense of clarity or guidance. Now, I will be writing a little bit as we go through things here, which I don't always do in the readings, but I really want to kind of lock in this information, and sometimes writing it down not only helps me to lock it in as we go along, but it opens up new pathways and portals of information. I know that many of you are familiar with this because you do automatic writing exercises, even if you don't refer to it as that. If you're journaling, songwriting, free writing, whatever the case is, very often these are almost unconscious forms of that kind of stream of consciousness writing that can be really powerful, because as someone who's really intuitive, this can actually allow you to tap into whole worlds of information. So the first thing I want to say about this energy, besides the fact that it's shrouded in mystery, which I guess is a good starting place since we are trying to kind of unpack the mystery here. The second thing is it's very extreme, but extreme in a way that's almost a void. It's everything and nothing at the same time, and I know that sounds really weird, but if you're going through this, you know what I mean. It feels like, on the one hand, you're firing on all cylinders. You may have a ton of different ideas, thoughts, information, different visions of things that you want to do. But then in the physical, things may appear to be very stagnant. In fact, physically, as in within your own physical body, you may feel that stagnancy as well, where you feel like it's really difficult to motivate yourself, really difficult to push yourself into action, which gets me to this next point. I'm writing that down really quick though. Stagnancy physically. Consider this kind of like us hanging out, having a conversation about what's going on energetically. I want something about this reading to feel even more like casual and personal and one-to-one than usual. I'm not really sure why I'm feeling guided to say all of that, but I feel that for someone listening here, you may also be feeling really kind of isolated or a little bit alone in this kind of energy that we're experiencing. So maybe having that sense of a personal touch in the reading could be helpful, like envisioning that we are just going out for coffee, having a conversation, kind of discussing what's going on here. Okay, so the next thing is when you're feeling this stagnancy physically, the conscious mind has this natural tendency, it's kind of what it does, where when it sees you looking as though you're being unmotivated, you're being tired, you're looking stuck, what does it do? Of course, it tries to catapult you into action, to push you into action, and even more so because right now we are in that state where you're probably getting so many ideas, things that you want to do, things that you want to create, even catching glimpses of future timelines where you are living and doing those things. And yet, you're sitting there on the couch or you're laying in bed and you can't seem to find the energy to actually go about achieving those things. Well, okay, so what happens is if you begin to feel guilty about allowing yourself to process the energy automatically, listening to your body, being in tune with your body, then what begins to happen is when you try to force yourself into action prematurely, you are going to be met with chaos, with obstacles, with sudden roadblocks. that are going to leave you feeling even more stuck. Now, of course, I always advocate for inspired action, but there's a night and day difference between action that comes from that clear, aligned, effortless, inspired place and action that comes from that place of trying to force, push, or control. And so, because the conscious mind is almost like kind of restless here, it's like, what are we doing? We're sitting on the couch, we need to be doing something. When you allow these kind of conscious mechanisms to force you into premature action, you are going to get this immediate blowback. And if you don't believe this is true, that's completely okay. Try it for yourself and feel it out. Maybe this doesn't resonate for you, but I guarantee if this does connect for you and you start trying to push yourself to do things that feel kind of tense, kind of out of alignment, but you feel like you need to be doing something, you are going to get that kind of blowback response, or again, be met with obstacles, or it's almost like slowing you down even more. When you try to speed things up artificially, it slows you down even more energetically. But the opposite is true as well. I'm hearing slow down to speed up. So it's like you have to physically allow yourself to slow down in order to speed up some kind of process that's taking place here, whether it's an emotional healing, a shift, some kind of realignment happening in your life, or literally something that you're manifesting. So I'm going to write that down. A major theme right now is literally slow down to speed up. And that's actually something that you could use as a mantra to really remind your conscious mind, I am allowing myself to slow down physically as I feel intuitively guided. I'm listening to my body's intuition on that. I'm listening to my rhythms and cycles. But ultimately, this is actually allowing me to speed up manifestations that I desire, because I am going to be able to, in that state of ease and relaxation, align more with the higher energies that will naturally allow the unfolding of those desires in perfect timing. But that's another thing coming up here. We can't force timelines. And here's the thing. This 3D heavier, denser reality or timeline that we've come out of, it would have allowed you to some extent to manipulate the timeline, to artificially speed things ahead, to push timelines. So it's almost like we have, let's call them artificial memories. I know that sounds really strange, but we have memories of a past timeline that exists in a literal sense, meaning we have actual real memories. They're not artificial in terms of like they didn't happen, but they happened on another timeline. So what I mean is, over the span of your life, there's your linear life, which is encompassed by your physical events of your life, your memories of those events, all of those things, they're very concrete and real. So I'm not discounting that. But within your life, when you are someone who is on a path of constant spiritual evolution, as you are, you also experience many breaks in your linear life. I'm actually like drawing on the page to visualize this, even though I'm terrible at drawing, but maybe I'll try to create an image or something for Instagram or something along those lines that sums this up. By the way, I feel we're going to add some of those visuals or further information in an Instagram post later. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, it is @magnetizeyourself. But okay, so when you're on a path of constant spiritual expansion, you have these breaks in your timeline, right? And so the thing is, every time you expand yourself energetically, align with a higher energy, and shift onto a different timeline, it creates this kind of break. So you can still remember in 3D terms what happened on this timeline, this timeline, this timeline, this timeline, but vibrationally and energetically, those memories are artificial. Now, what I mean by that is, yes, they really happened in a concrete physical way, but vibrationally, every time you shifted timelines, you wiped the previous slate clean. That vibration no longer affected you. It even no longer affected your relationships, your connections. Okay, let's go a layer deeper into this. So this is why, for so many of you who have gone through, I want to say multiple awakenings, but at some point it's just kind of the way you live your life. And it's the way that you're constantly growing, expanding energetically, that you don't allow yourself to be locked into any one system or program without questioning it. This is constantly elevating your consciousness, constantly shifting your timeline. So it almost feels too rigid or containing to even say you've had multiple awakenings. You are just this beautiful energetic being on this constant path of spiritual expansion, and this is perpetually shifting you onto higher timelines. But does anyone here have that experience where there are people from your past that you have concrete, let's call them real memories of connecting with, but when you reach back out to those people, when you connect with them, let's say you haven't spoken to them in a while and you run into them and they seem either completely different, and I'm not talking about just normal differences, the way that of course we all move through time, we all have new life experiences. You may literally have people that you remember being really close to who almost treat you like a stranger, or like they weren't ever that close to you. I know this is such a specific example and this may not resonate in this exact way, but you can take it if it connects a different way. What I mean is, do you ever interact with someone who you have a real memory of certain relationships or connections with in this lifetime, and they seem to have an entirely different recollection of that friendship, those memories, or maybe it's almost like that didn't even exist on this timeline? Yes, your memories are real, but when you shift onto a higher timeline, you can wipe the vibrational slate clean, which can actually alter the relationships in your life. So another example of this, in I guess a more positive or optimistic note, is when this occurs, there can be people in your life that you used to connect with from a very toxic, very lower vibrational place, a very negative place. Maybe you used to fight all the time, maybe you used to have a very toxic connection. But when you jump up to a higher timeline, you actually can find that you connect with that person from a completely different place, from a higher place. Let me know in the comments if you have this experience, and of course I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but I'm doing a free tarot reading giveaway for the month of December 2024. So if you do leave a comment under one of the December videos, I will be able to potentially select that comment. I'm selecting one at random at the end of the month to do this free reading. So again, leave a comment if you want to be entered in the free tarot reading giveaway for December. And specifically for this reading, let me know if you've been shifting timelines, if you've had any strange experiences around shifting timelines, or if that doesn't connect, just share anything that resonates with you from the reading. Okay, so I didn't expect us to get this quantum in this video, but it just was what wants to come through. So real memories versus artificial memories. And this content, I know this sounds crazy to people who don't understand this. I'm just hoping that this comes across in the right way, because I am not saying that your memories did not occur physically in the 3D. I'm saying that vibrationally, every time you shifted timelines, you wiped the slate clean from that previous timeline. So the way that you show up in those connections, the way you interact with them, or if it's not a connection, I'm also just talking about your life generally. Like everything in your life interacts with you differently every time you shift up to a higher timeline. Most people are not familiar with this experience because, as I've talked about before on the channel, most people lock themselves into one very linear, predictable, often medium to lower vibrational timeline, let's say, and they keep themselves there. At the most, they might feel contentment, they might feel kind of bored by their life. Sometimes they'll dip into the higher emotions, sometimes the negative emotions, but it's almost like they're limited to that little energetic bandwidth and they never really ask for more or break out into more, but you are one of those who has always been asking for more. That's why you've carried around this feeling of restlessness with you your entire life. That is why you've always felt that there's more that you need to be doing on this planet. It's because you're on this path of consciousness and you are meant to have a huge impact on the planet, and you have that impact first and foremost by having the courage to break free from limiting patterns and belief systems energetically that have been weighing you down or holding you back, keeping you locked into that one timeline. But as I was saying, most people, they stay on this one timeline trajectory, and anyone like you who's jumping between timelines, shifting to higher timelines, they almost would judge or perceive as, maybe crazy is an extreme word, but it's like they just can't wrap their mind around the way that you operate, the way you think, the way you live your life, because you are just completely detached from any one specific timeline trajectory. You, in essence, are completely free, and that is so beautiful and so inspirational, and some people are going to be so triggered by it. But that is all to say, usually for most people, and I've said this before, but if they do manage to break free from that timeline, it usually does come around when they've mentally fully developed to the point where they are really beginning to evaluate, what do I want with my life? How do I want to redefine myself? And when they choose to actually redefine themselves, to break free of that old limiting belief system, to become a new person, people around them label it condescendingly as a midlife crisis, when really it's just an awakening. It's actually a spiritual awakening. And for those of you listening, again, you most likely are going through these all the time because you're on this path of perpetual growth, perpetual expansion. So I don't know why all of this is coming up here, but I feel the words affirmation for the way you're living your life. Let's say affirmation for how you operate, meaning this is your affirmation, this is your sign of confirmation that you are right on track. There is nothing wrong with the way you are operating just because it's unconventional, just because other people cannot comprehend it or understand it. So, okay, a lot has come out here, but essentially, it's kind of funny, we've gotten so quantum. I'm having trouble tying this all the way back, but okay, good thing I was taking notes. Maybe this is why my guides wanted me to take notes, because they knew we were going to get off on these like crazy side quest tangents. But getting back to, we can't force timelines. So these timeline shifts, oh, that's interesting, because usually when I say we can't force timelines, I'm not talking about literally like shifting timelines. I'm talking about the timing of our life, like the timing of how things come together. But my guides are saying there's a connection here that I've been missing or not necessarily making in these readings in the past, which is every timeline comes with its own timing. And if you want new timing, you have to shift timelines. You can't force timing artificially. I'm writing this down. You can't force timing artificially. You have to shift timelines. You have to shift timelines in order to establish new timing. Okay, so this makes a lot of sense. So when the conscious mind tries to force new timing without shifting timelines, or rather allowing these automatic shifts in timelines, this is where we experience that friction, because we're trying to force ourselves into some new plan, some new timing, instead of allowing the shift internally that is going to move us to a higher timing, a higher timeline that will come with its own automatic unfoldment of those manifestations in ease and grace and harmony, in a way that has its own rhythm, its own timing. Every timeline has its own rhythm, and you feel that rhythm internally with your being, with your energy, and our rhythm shifts as we expand, as we grow, as we shift into those higher timelines, because it's speaking to us internally how we can best align with the timing, the harmonious timing of that new timeline. But again, none of this can be forced on either side. I'm actually getting the timeline shift itself really can't be forced, and the timing can't be forced, meaning you are allowing these shifts. You are the allower, not the forcer. So right now we are going through a major timeline shift, and it's something that we have to allow. It's why we are feeling so tired at times, why we're feeling so much excitement and energy. It's like we're tasting the energy of that new timeline, but we're not yet fully locking it in. So you might be experiencing a lot of what people call ascension symptoms, which one way to think of ascension symptoms is because people will say, why are we perpetually experiencing waves of ascension symptoms? I know that at the beginning of a spiritual awakening journey, it's very common to think, okay, so these are the symptoms, and then you shift into a higher level and then you never have them again. But that's not really the way it works, because every upgrade is its own ascension. Every time you shift onto a higher timeline, you are basically going through another mini ascension. And that is why often you will experience waves of ascension symptoms, and then you'll go through periods of time where you're feeling really good, where you're feeling really light, really high vibrational, really creative, and then boom, all of a sudden you're hit with these waves of, again, what we might call ascension symptoms. This is because this represents those times when you are actually ascending or shifting onto higher timelines, like what's happening now. Now the words people are deciding are coming out here. People are deciding how they feel about you. People are deciding if they want to or feel confident enough to continue connecting with you. And the words let them are coming out. So, of course, there is that really recently popularized theory, or I should say really like the mantra of let them. I'm sure you guys have seen this on Instagram Reels or TikTok if you use that platform, but it's the idea that if someone wants to enter your life, let them. If someone wants to leave your life, let them. If someone loves you, let them. If someone hates you, let them. It's like just allowing what is, allowing people to decide how they're going to react to you while you hold the frequency, while you hold your center of power. But somehow this is really coming to the forefront now, because I have to tell you, I am getting very specifically that you've been disconnected from, or there's a weird energy around some of your relationships right now, and this might be causing some doubt or confusion within you. I'm going to write this down. Okay, so this might be causing doubt within you, but what you need to understand is nothing's going wrong here, and you haven't done anything wrong. It's that these people are being given an opportunity to shift with you into this higher timeline or to continue as they are. But the thing is, I'm getting many haven't experienced a timeline shift before. So what's happening is you've shifted many times, but for many of these individuals, meeting you has been this literal spiritual awakening. It's been this break in their timeline. It's been almost like this crisis point for them. It's causing them to question everything. It's causing them to have these so-called ascension symptoms that you're probably very used to at this time, but they are most likely not accustomed to. And so they are being given the opportunity to join you in your new beginning, in your next phase, which, by the way, I'm getting the words high profile. I feel either you already are a high profile person or you soon will be. You are going to be very, very difficult to access, very exclusive, or maybe you already are. And I've said this before, but I'm getting this energy again, that it's almost like people are being given the opportunity. It's like a last call to connect with you, to join you in this next phase before they're going to have to watch you. Oh, okay, so I'm hearing they're being given the chance to join you before they're going to have to watch you, meaning to watch you thrive, to watch you in this high profile state of being. And when I say high profile, of course, this will show up differently depending on your personal desires, because for some of you, you may actively desire to be in the limelight, to be developing some level of fame or a following. For others of you, this could speak to this high profile concept is like you're going to be difficult to access energetically, emotionally. Not everyone is going to be able to connect with you. It's like a VIP type of energy. I'm seeing like that red velvet rope. You're going to be separated in a sense where people are going to see you and perceive you thriving, glowing, creating, exuding this vibrancy, but they're not necessarily going to be able to connect with you in that place if they choose to remain on this timeline. And you can't force someone else's timeline either, which is interesting. I said earlier you can't force timelines, and I thought it was about you, but now I'm thinking it's also about how those timelines align or disalign you with particular individuals. So your shifting, that's already happening. You can't stop your shift in order to stay connected to someone who might be choosing to stay on a lower vibrational timeline. And if you try, this creates more resistance, more tension. Again, it's like that essence, that energy of control that gives that kind of kickback, negatively speaking, and you will feel that with every fiber of your being. So people have to make a choice, and I feel that anyone who's been sitting on the fence of your energy, anyone who's been kind of in, kind of out, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, kind of connecting with you in this inspirational, high vibrational place, but then sometimes dipping back into these lower vibrations. Anyone who's been sitting on the fence with you it's like the fence is gone. There is no fence now. They have to choose. They're in or they're out. And I'm actually getting that as they make this choice, they've been disconnected from you energetically. So if they've pulled back from you, or you've suddenly felt this intuitive urge to set a boundary with them, or suddenly something about that connection just seems weird, it just seems off, this isn't your fault, and really it's not the other person's fault either. It's no one's fault. It's a result of what's happening here energetically, which again is, as the conscious free will creator of their own life, they're being given a choice. Are they going to shift with you? And you've already made your choice because you are fully committed to this path of expansion. When you feel that push, that call internally, you go with it. Actually, you do that so automatically, you may not even consciously realize you're answering the call. It's just your nature. Your nature now is to expand, to be free, to keep growing. So I feel that people, again, who have been sitting on the fence, have had the fence taken away from them, and they now are being pushed to make a choice. Are they going to connect with you consistently, but also have to commit to that path of expansion internally, which is scary to them, but also exhilarating at the same time? Are they going to say yes to that adventure, or are they going to continue living in this lower vibrational but very predictable and seemingly safe, where the ego is telling them that it's safe, kind of timeline and trajectory? So this is the choice that people are being pushed to make, and anyone who seems like they've been blocked out, disconnected, going cold, it's no one's fault. It's a result of the energy that is happening here. And so I know that we're almost 30 minutes into this reading, and we actually haven't pulled a single card, which is crazy. It's funny, when I started this video, the energy felt so chaotic that I was a bit nervous about it, because I really didn't know what was going to come through, but I felt this guidance internally, like, just say what you've been feeling in the energy, even if it feels messy, even if it feels chaotic. So I have to tell you, I feel there's a direct reflection in that. There's a message in that for someone, which is allow what is, embrace the messiness, embrace the chaos, embrace what you're feeling, and express it authentically. Don't try to fit yourself into a mold or a box. Your voice holds so much power and so much value in its authentic state. Just being who you are, that raw version of yourself, just exuding that energy, keeping your heart open by not trying to put yourself or your message or your ideas into some kind of a pre-created, societally acceptable mold, because your creations will always find the people that they're meant to reach when you create them from that authentic state within yourself. So I really hope that this reading has been helpful for someone. I have so much more to say about this that we're going to be diving into in the extended reading on Patreon. So we're going to be talking about how other people in your life have been reacting to these shifts, those people that are choosing, as we've been saying, that are being pushed to no longer sit on the fence. Again, that fence is gone. They're being pushed to choose whether they're going to commit to this expansion internally and keep connecting with you or not. I feel some very specific people coming through around all of that for some of you. So again, we're going to go into that on Patreon, but I'm also going to be leaving that reading open to channel through any other messages or pieces of information that want to come through. So if you do want to join on Patreon, the link to do so is in the pinned comment and description box underneath the video. You can also follow me on Instagram at Magnetize Yourself, and otherwise, I am going to close this first reading here with a Rumi Oracle message. So let's go ahead and channel a message here. Wow, okay, this one's going to be powerful, and I feel it's going to be so relevant to so much that we've been talking about here. Beloved, you stand at the edge of transformation. Do not fear the unknown, for the unknown is the birthplace of all that you are destined to become. You may feel the ache of uncertainty or the discomfort of growth, but these feelings are the whispers of your soul calling you into alignment with your divine truth. Try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you, and do not worry that your life is turning upside down. How do you know that the side you are used to is better than the one to come? You are like the seed, cracked open by the force of the earth and rain. Though it may feel like breaking, it is actually the birth of your magnificence. This time calls for trust. Trust in the process, trust in the unseen hands that guide you, and trust in the wisdom of your own heart. There is no need to rush or control. Your path is being revealed step by step in divine timing. Be gentle with yourself as you navigate this unfolding. Just as the moon waxes and wanes, your own rhythm of growth will take its own perfect shape. Trust that you are already enough, even as you continue to expand into more. Rumi says, when the soul lies down in the grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. This is your invitation to surrender to the love that holds all things together. Release the need for certainty and step into divine flow. You are not separate from the beauty and power of the universe. You are the beauty and power of the universe, itself expressing in unique form. Let the wind carry you to places your mind cannot yet imagine. Do not cling to the shore, for the vast ocean of your destiny is calling. Say yes to this sacred journey, and you will find treasures beyond your wildest dreams. There is also an affirmation. I trust the divine plan unfolding in my life. I release fear and surrender to love. I am guided, supported, and whole in every moment. So, wow, that might be one of the most beautiful Rumi messages we've channeled in these readings. So thank you for co-creating everything that came through today. Take care of yourself, especially with all of the very intense energies about. And as always, I look forward to connecting with you again in Monday's reading.